Hi, good evening, Rapunzel ladies. My name is Penina Taylor, and I'm coming to you today to speak with you about something that is very near and dear to my heart. In fact, you may be looking at me and asking, why is this woman addressing a bunch of ladies whose sole purpose for coming together is that we cover our heads with scarves, and she's wearing a shaitel? What's with the wig? Why are you doing this? Well, I have to tell you that I am wearing this wig on purpose. And that is because I want to share something very important with you. I wear a scarf most of the time when I'm at home. When I'm at home or I'm going around to my community, I wear a scarf. I think they're beautiful. I think they're feminine. I think they're far more comfortable in this hot weather that we're having, right? I think that in many ways, this is just my personal opinion, it's not a criticism of anybody who wears wigs, but in many ways, I regard them as personally more modest. But sometimes I wear a wig, and that's because I am a person who addresses public audiences on a regular basis, and it's something that's expected of me in my job. And also, I've discovered something very interesting. One day, I was flying on a plane from America to Israel. I was returning home after a speaking tour that I had had in the United States, and I was sitting next to an Israeli woman who is not at all religious, and we were talking. In fact, it was very funny when she first got on the plane, and I found out that she was Israeli, and it looked like she didn't speak any English, and my Hebrew was not so good. I figured, you know what, I'll be able to just relax and sleep for the whole flight. It'll be a nice, quiet flight. Well, it turns out that she had enough English and I had enough Hebrew that we talked throughout the evening. And we talked about all sorts of things, some important things, some not important things, some political things, some religious things, some things about being a Jew in America, other things, just lots of things, our children, education, okay, all kinds of stuff. Towards the end of the trip, I had to fill out some sort of documentation. Maybe it was when I was on my way to America, actually not on my way back. I had to fill out some documentation, and because of that, I had my Israeli ID card out. Now, I don't think what I told you was that on the plane, I was wearing a shaitel. I was wearing a wig, okay? Now, in the Jewish world, most people can figure out that you're wearing a wig. They know what to look for. They can tell that it's a wig. But apparently this lady didn't know it was a wig. And my ID card fell, and she picked it up, and she noticed that on it, I happened to be wearing a scarf in the picture. And she said to me, "What? You don't cover your head anymore?" And I said, no, this is a wig. I still cover my head. But you know why I cover my head with a wig most of the time? This flight is a perfect example of why. I explained to her, I said, if I had gotten on the plane with a scarf on and sat down next to you, you would have seen me as a religious woman, and you probably wouldn't have talked to me, would you? And she admitted that she would not have talked to me had I gotten on the plane and sat down with her, next to her, wearing a scarf. And I said, that is why sometimes I don't wear a scarf, because you saw me simply as a woman, not as a religious woman, but just as a woman. Maybe as another Jewish woman, maybe as another Israeli citizen, maybe as a new Israeli citizen, but you didn't think, religious woman, stay far away from me. I don't want to have anything to do with you, because I was wearing the hair, and you didn't think that it was a wig. And so one of the reasons, as a person who does a lot of counseling and a lot of speaking, I often will wear a wig when it is appropriate. So sometimes I wear scarves and sometimes I wear wigs. And something that I have noticed is that other people frequently expect us to maintain a very consistent identity. They decide what our identity is supposed to look like. They may not try to tell us what our personal identity is supposed to be, but they will tell you what each and every identity box looks like, and then they will try to put us into that box. Each and every person out there, outside of you, wants to know what box to put you in so that they can figure out what to do with you. Now, part of it makes sense. They want to know, are you a safe person? Can they relate to you, right? but they want you to act consistently, because if one time you act like you belong in one box and another time you act like you belong in another box, it makes people very uncomfortable. People don't want to extend the effort to actually get to know you well enough to know who you are on the inside without the externals getting in the way. They want to just simply be able to put you in a box and determine how to relate to you from there. Now, that applies not only to a woman like me who wears a scarf sometimes and wears a sheitel sometimes, but it even applies to those of you who sometimes cover all your hair and sometimes cover part of your hair, sometimes don't cover your hair and sometimes you do. Sometimes you wear modest clothing and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you wear a scarf and short sleeves, or sometimes you wear long sleeves, or whatever it is. You probably have gotten a little bit of criticism because people don't like it when we're not consistent, because it makes their job a lot harder. They have to get to know us deep down inside to really get to know us. They can't just make a snap decision. People don't want to go through that much work. Even people we're related to. You might say, well, it's my sister. Well, I have news for you. Even your sister wants you to fit into a nice, simple box. She doesn't want to get to know all of the complexities of who you are, because it's human nature. It's human nature to be lazy, and it's human nature to take the easy way out. And I just wanted to say that you were created exactly the way that you are supposed to be. With all your complexities and intricacies, with all your going backs and forths, with all of those things, you are exactly who you are supposed to be. And you should feel, look, God created you that way. God created you the way He did. Now, sometimes we need to look at the way people are responding to us and decide if that's a signal that it's time for us to evaluate something about our personality and maybe make some changes in our lives. Just because you were created exactly how you're supposed to be does not mean that you are where you need to be. And we have to use the things that God put into our personality, that God created within us, in order to determine where it is that we're supposed to be. But don't ever let anybody shame you about how you cover, what you used to cover. You be yourself, and you be who God created you to be. Because I have news for you. You are a valuable and worthy person simply because you are. Simply because you are. Not because of how you choose to cover your head or what you choose to wear. Who you are makes you valuable. And you have a purpose and a calling in this life. And if that means to wear a sheitel one day and a beret the next day and a head covering the next day, you need to be true to who you are. And the only person that you answer to besides yourself is your relationship with God. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. Have a great evening. This is Penina with Just a Thought on head coverings.